Hi, this is Chris Enriquez from Spotlights, Julie Christmas, Orange 9mm, and On the Might of Princes. And we're talking about Drum Corps today. Thanks for tuning in.
So, yay, finally, we're seeing each other.
You finally, about time.
We hit it off pretty quick in there during the pandemic, thanks to the IDC, which was really a lifesaver during that time. I actually had like a near death experience just like a month before the pandemic. So I was like unable to move, and it was drumming that like got me back to functioning again. And so the IDC was just like such a great thing for everyone to like have a monthly deadline to deliver a drum performance, and everyone was upping their game on their stage presence and their video production and editing and everything. It was cool to see and be part of.
It really was. I felt the same way. I mean, first of all, I didn't have a life-death experience, though. That's crazy. I'm glad that you made it through and that this organization that Aaron Tate put together during that time um, probably helped with your spirit and all that and just keeping you uplifted, and connecting with cool people. So that's crazy. I think it was a dark time for everybody, and that was such a great way for drummers and general. I mean, the music community was sort of suffering, but it was nice to see solidarity with drummers specifically. Because we all know how to nerd out, and we have a lot to say. I think we have that in common. So we're
I
the
had
unspoken ones.
I had a feeling from drummer friends of mine, from years of touring or whatever, but it was kind of cool to learn by being part of this group of now over 100 people that what a weird kindred spirit there is with all drummers. It was like partially like herding cats, but also everyone was like super motivated and positive and energetic and like happy to get stuff done. And I feel like a lot of bands I know, the drummer is the one who's doing a lot behind the scenes beyond just playing the music.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, we're that's true, but also beyond that, it's kind of funny to think that maybe we have it in maybe we're really outspoken because we're used to having to hit things loud enough to be heard. We don't have volume buttons or on our instrument or and we're usually sitting behind everybody. So we all have a lot to say. And I think we socialized with each other a lot during that time as like a collective.
Who are you recording your drum corps performance with?
I am recording my drum corps performance with a engineer named Mike Gawarecki, and we are doing it at a independent studio called Pigsty, uh, located in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn.
That's great. The people who have stepped up to become involved with this, I'm so infinitely grateful. You're one of my favorite drummers. We've got Matt Chamberlain, who has played with Pearl Jam and David Bowie and drummed with the Saturday Night Live band for a couple of years and toured with Soundgarden. We have Erik Eldenius, who's a drummer of Billy Idol, Kellii Scott from Failure, Gerken from Shiner, Greg Saunier from Deerhoof, Blake Fleming from Mars Volta, Dazzling Killmen, Kliph Scurlock from Flaming Lips, Noah Ledger from Fax, Ian Prince from BirdHands, and Matthias Bossi from Sleepytime Gorilla Museum. It's just like Volume 1 is going to be so sick. I'm so excited to get this done, hopefully by, the end of the summer. Thank you for getting involved. This political situation feels like you just want to do something.
Yeah, it's been like a weird time, I guess, because like I've struggled with, first of all, like I'm not white, so like racism has been in my life since, before I can even remember, like I had to block a lot of things out when I grew up in a predominantly conservative white Catholic town in the suburbs of Long Island where I lived, and homophobia was a major part of sort of the discrimination as well. So when you take racism and homophobia and then the fear of being able to speak your feelings freely without the threat of violence or the threat of violence against your family or the place that you live in or your friends. And these are things that I experienced and witnessed that shaped me, for better or worse. When when Trump was elected, it was the first time it was shocking, but also really eye-opening in the sense that like maybe throughout that entire time that was happening, like people were starting to realize how shitty things in the world really were as I might have felt like I knew that already, if that makes any sense. So from personal experience, obviously, like wars going on in the world have always been a thing for, which is awful, and usually they are fueled by some sort of religious sort of thing, which is also ridiculous and something I experienced a lot growing up because we were there was a lot of discrimination and in where I grew up, and also it was dominated by Catholics. So Muslims and people that had other beliefs weren't always treated the best. So I just kind of felt like what I went through in elementary school and high school was just sort of like being put on under a magnifying glass in on every platform, on television and every news channel, every newspaper, in ways that were not so surprising to me. That maybe the reality is just finally hitting people, that this is the world we live in, and in ways I'm also starting to realize that while it might have seemed like we were making a lot of progress, that we actually haven't, because somebody like him being in office and being voted in kind of proves that there are people out there that have felt this way for decades, but they just didn't really feel empowered to let their voices be heard. Now aside from the Proud Boys, which is another organization that started within 20 minutes of where I'm sitting right now. There are other hate groups, and all sorts of things going on, and everyone feels empowered. So, like, the truth has come out. It's not a good truth, and now we're living in a place that is only gotten worse because he's been elected a second time. So, and then the wars that are happening in Israel and Iran and Palestine and all this insanity has gone from a domestic sort of nightmare to a international nightmare, and now we're here in this chaos. So I've got a lot of different ways of dealing with that personally. I feel like I've had to live in a bubble because I can only control what's in my bubble, and how I go about my day with my loved ones and the people I care about, right? But at the same time, it's important to protest. I'm not always out there as much as I should. I feel like there's a lot more violence now than there used to be. I think I used to be a little bit more ballsy in how I would go out and demonstrate. So if the safest way that feels right is to kind of use music to do that, then I'm lucky that you came up with this idea and asked me to be part of it, and that we're doing this with such a great collection of people. It all matters, however way you do it. And like the traditional way of sort of protesting did involve a lot of chanting and drums. And I think that your ideology of how you're doing this artistically is very cool. And now that you have the means of raising money and putting it towards different organizations and things to help build awareness and create positivity is extremely valuable. So I applaud you for doing that, and I appreciate you asking me to be part of it.
Thank you so much. I mean, it hurts my feelings at a protest when, a chant breaks out and two dudes with out of time bongos and the chant like falls apart in 10 seconds. And I'm like, I really want to hear like a crushing, like Swans album for 15 minutes of just undeniable drums and chanting. So it's been in my mind for a while. But after Obama, I felt like, oh, okay, we kind of have like solved a lot of stuff and the world is getting way better. And I had like let my guard down. And then, yeah, the first Trump presidency, I was just shocked but it was kind of comical for a minute because I was like, oh wait, is he just like a reality TV grifter? And then I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is a white power administration.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now they've arrived fully prepared with Project 2025, who have accomplished 42% of their agenda already in 6 months. And it is a full on white power coup that's happening.
Yeah.
And, I'm so triggered and pissed and like on the verge of like losing it that this is like my way of channeling it into something useful.
Yeah,
It's the
totally.
best the best way I can cathartically get it out of my system, and hopefully we can raise money for the ACLU, who I think are going to be our best chance at fighting to defend democracy. They've got almost 150 cases already in lawsuits happening right now against that administration. So
That's phenomenal. And yeah, there's so many different ways to raise money, and that's probably the best way to do it because honestly, like what's happening is I think the donations to that administration are coming from gigantic corporate entities that are connected to things that we don't even realize half the time. And then as practical human beings, it's not always easy to boycott every single thing that you may not realize, or even when you do realize that they're donating to this. So you can go out of your way by doing something that is charitable, that is of interest to folks that they would donate to. So this is one of those things. There's a lot of people doing similar stuff, at the local level, as far as like, I was talking about Turnstile, and I think they raised a ton of money for I hope I'm not mistaken this, but I think it was homeless shelters and things like that. And I just participated in a benefit on Bandcamp for a local homeless shelter called Oasis in Minnesota. It was a Deftones tribute record that I did a Light Tower song for, and all the proceeds of anyone that orders the songs from Bandcamp is donating directly to a homeless shelter. So like, in different ways, I'm trying to do what I can, because I'm not that young kid that's willing to get arrested with my friends out in the streets, but I am a person that has something to offer that maybe somebody's willing to donate some money towards if I let them know what it's for.
yeah, hopefully more artists will get vocal. I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see Springsteen be so sharply outspoken, and we need a lot more others to do the same.
It's interesting. Like, just not to cut you off, but like, I did not ever think in my wildest imagination that Dave Matthews was going to speak out against what's going on with the Trump administration. And he last night, especially because his fans, I would argue, predominantly are probably Trump supporters. I grew up dealing with a lot of people that were kind of fucked up and racist and homophobic, and most of them were into Dave Matthews. Oddly enough, where I was from, that was sort of the demographic. They were not sort of what you would think, but he is pictured at a concert, I think, last night or over the weekend, and he also had poked at the Trump administration several times, and I saw it on some music media outlet today. So kudos to Dave Matthews. I never thought I would say that. I don't know who's going to watch this that's going to care, but like kudos to Dave Matthews for doing something similar to what Springsteen did, because we need more of that. Those are successful, rich white guys that are using their art to speak against the evils that are going on right now. So like seriously, mad props to Dave Matthews.
Yeah, we're in the upside down now. Who Nothing makes any sense anymore. It's like
I know. Oasis is back together. They love each other.
it's
Oh,
the
man.
age of quarrel. Things are just chaotic now.
Yeah. Well, let's do our best to band together. That's what we're doing.
What's your story of getting into music?
I got into music at a really early age. I knew the moment that I heard records playing in my parents' house, like Billy Joel and Long Island was a really big deal. So I heard the singles a lot on vinyl in my house. And then just because of the time that it was, I was born in 1980, so like in the early 80s when I first started to hear music, and actually, the memories I have, like whatever time period that was where it stuck with me, it was like things like the Police and Billy Joel and Phil Collins and stuff like that. That was sort of always around me. And then as I got, I wouldn't even say older because honestly, like I was probably 5 or 6 years old the first time I got picked on, and then that was sort of like what the remaining years of my life ended up like from that point on until I was 18 years old. And I guess even in college to some degree. So it was really that sort of classic punk rock story where like I got picked on for being weird and different. And instead of giving in and being like everyone else, I fought against it. And naturally, my music taste sort of followed suit. And then I discovered things like, Nirvana in the 90s is an obvious one for someone that was born in 1980 at my age. I would have been 11 or 12 when Nevermind came out, but I was so early on into metal even before that, so I already heard Slayer and Metallica and Anthrax. So I was a really early bloomer when it came to that, and then naturally that's how I also found out about hardcore and punk rock, and then there's that sort of typical path you go on where then you get into post-hardcore and noise and all that stuff. So that was sort of my backstory.
100%. I had a similar situation. I immediately started getting bullied in freaking first grade, and it lasted all the way, until it was really easy to find a place to fit in the art department with the punk rock kids. And all of a sudden they needed a drummer, and all of a sudden I was playing shows, and then I never stopped.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm going to be 45 this year. It's awesome. And like, we're talking here and we have that connection. So it's like it stays with you. It doesn't go away.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of my life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, going to those shows, seeing Earl with the Bad Brains, seeing, even the early post-punk stuff and post-hardcore, like Butthole Surfers in the 80s, and, Big Black, and just all kinds of really cutting-edge music. I'm so grateful for finding the underground in general.
Totally. I got this is my Bad Brains tattoo I have right here. I gotta show you that. Yeah, I heard Bad Brains live as a cassette tape before I ever heard the actual recordings, and that was a big part of like those early years of discovering stuff. And it was before I saw a hardcore show. So that was like I'm lucky that I heard that because now as an older person and I watch documentaries and read books, like I know how much of a big deal they were for everybody else, and I'm jealous you got to witness it in their formative years. But like that was like it had a similar impact on me, even though it was just a cassette tape and not like an actual live experience. So all that stuff and Butthole Surfers, I bought all those cassette tapes and stuff. You know.
But you're playing a lot of hardcore nowadays. It seems like you're the guy in New York bands are calling when they're doing their get shows to get back together. Who are you? What bands are you playing with live?
Orange 9mm, as far as like a New York City band that's from the hardcore scene, is like the band that I'm playing with right now. And they had an old band called Burn that I briefly played in like the later years, like since 2020. So I did like a show with them at Tompkins Square Park. And then I'm also as far as like that scene is concerned, that's really the only band I'm doing. But I play in Spotlights and Julie Christmas, and I also am playing in an older band that I used to be in from like 20 plus years ago called On the Might of Princes.
Not to mention Light Tower.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about drumming there for a second, but Light Tower, I started to kind of finally take the songs I wrote that I never really got to perform because they were, songs I wrote on guitar, and singing was a little bit of a thing I was shy about. So I got the courage, in 2020 pandemic sort of period to force myself to get over that fear, and I started releasing music online, and then eventually played shows. So that's been a lot of fun to get out of my system. Thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, I liked it. I met your drummer during our show in Brooklyn, and we geeked out for like an hour.
Oh yeah, Jay Crawford is the best. He's like another guy that's in like 80 million bands.
Um, do you have an album or recording of your drumming that stands out as a favorite, or a couple of them?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say like um Spotlight's Alchemy for the Dead, specifically because I did the drums and cymbals tracking. I tracked them separate from each other. I never did that before. I've heard stories about people doing that, but the fact that we were able to pull it together and that we got really cool sounds that way, which I didn't really truly understand why people did that, but now I understand. That was probably my favorite album to play drums on for in terms of like just like creativity.
I love that record. The sounds, the tones on that are so sick.
Thanks, man. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, man.
Uh, yeah, I play along to that sometimes. It's such a good record.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to make in ways frustrating, but fun.
I can only imagine how challenging it would be to like play your hi hats and cymbals only.
It was like a video game. I was saying that to somebody because it was like not a video game, but like a game in general, like throwing darts. Like it wasn't that blind, but like whenever you landed the right hits on the hi-hats or cymbals in between the fills and everything, it felt like you scored. You know what I mean? And it was also like kind of like you were uncertain if you were gonna really nail it. You know what I mean? It was funny.
Strange and very cool way to do it. Eager to hear what Mario does with the new Shiner record.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And especially because I always part of Shiner's appeal was the drumming and all the crazy stuff Jason Gerken did on the egg and on the most recent one, which I'm not going to even try to say the title because I'll butcher it. But yeah, Mario's really good at recording drums. He's a drummer too, so like he has a knack and he doesn't do things conventionally. So I really can't wait to hear what he does with Jason's drumming.
Jason is a creative genius. I think he's just incredible in his ability to constantly write new beats, new fills, and maintain all of those things for a full set and multiple albums in his brain.
Yeah, I mean, I geeked out when I met him. I was such a big fan in high school, so it's like even though I'm in my 40s, I still kind of find myself intimidated by anybody that I was listening to, like if it was like sophomore year of high school, which is when I got into Shiner. But I was pleasantly surprised, but also pleasantly. It was a pleasant thing to hear what a sense of humor he had about his drumming because he told me that a lot of that stuff he did like was almost out of humor value. Like, let's see how many ridiculous drum fills I could fit into a part, and the most ridiculous it was, the more laughter came out of the room, and or something like that. I think he said something like that, and they were like, "We have to keep that." So it's kind of interesting listening to a record that you don't find to be like comedic or anything or silly, and then kind of get to know him and his psyche a little bit, and it all makes sense.
He's definitely also a total comedian.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, yeah, that's some great stuff that he played though.
So you've especially recently played some huge festivals. What's the weirdest thing you've seen?
Oh God, I think that the weirdest thing that I've seen in recent years, like, would be like, I don't know. We played Julie Christmas and Spotlights both played Hellfest in France, and that's like a massive festival. Metallica was headlining that day, and like, okay, so we're backstage, and like all of the trailers are dressing rooms for all the artists, and they're next to each other, and you have to use the same communal bathrooms. That's like a big, gigantic porta potty on wheels, basically, and it looks like Halloween back there, and it's like the names of people that are next to each other are so random. It's like I remember seeing like Yngwie Malmsteen's name on a door that might have been next to Suicidal Tendencies, and then it's like Chelsea Wolfe, Extreme. Like these are the actual people who are in these rooms next to each other. And then like I walked into the bathroom and like Yngwie Malmsteen was coming out of one stall to wash his hands while I was washing my hands. And they're all wearing their outfits and it looks like Halloween back there. And it's not until like Extreme started playing More Than Words and I didn't realize they were on stage and that you're just like, this is not a cover band in a bar. That's the actual band playing More Than Words right now over there. So those are my like favorite moments of those. That is probably the most ridiculous thing I've experienced so far.
That is surreal. I was in a band called Iron Right Mangle with Joel Hamilton, who I think you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Josh Newton and Richie Toomer, our great friend. And Quiet Riot were coming through Kansas City on like their reunion tour. And like kind of as a joke, kind of serious, we got booked on the show. And
Wow.
our friend who ran the venue printed the tickets, Iron Right Mangle with special guests, Quiet Riot.
Oh God.
And it was just like, it was surreal seeing them play those songs.
Their documentary is really amazing, and I know they've continued to play with like almost no original members at this point. But so like that is really funny. It's usually like those metal bands that like are really the funny stories that you leave these things with because like coming from where we come from, like dressed like we are right now is not very different from what we look like on stage. But these guys are like full on like in like serious fucking wardrobe, you know.
Yeah,
It's pretty wild.
the full on theatrics. Do you have a favorite band or album lately?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer that pretty generically though. I think that no, I'm not one of those guys that's like kind of ignoring what's happening today. I really like that band Turnstile and I love that record. I preface with that because like I know there's like a thing where a lot of older punk dudes have like kind of gatekeeping or whatever and whatnot. I like to evolve and I think that band specifically is like the most exciting thing I've heard in a long time. And it's like there's not a lot of that in mainstream. So at a certain point, you gotta sort of be happy that there's any punk band sort of repping the culture out there on that level, you know? So I really like their record that's out right now.
Yeah, it's cool the level that they've taken it to.
Totally, totally, totally. I mean, I will also say that Dead Guy, near death. I think it's Jesus. I was just with them yesterday. Near death travel services, I think is what it's called. Hopefully, I didn't fuck that up. I think that's like the best record I've heard by like older guys that have gotten back together, specifically in aggressive music. It's really pissed off and like so sort of like the closest thing I think to like Damaged by Black Flag that you're ever going to hear in like 2025.
Wow,
Like
that's
it's
an
fantastic.
endorsement right there.
Yeah.
Damaged is definitely like the reference point for everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Come on now. Yeah, that's like as pure as it's gonna get when it comes to just like unhinged. You know.
Yeah, I definitely spent a year of my life just playing that record over and over again and looking at the cover and just like in a friggin' tunnel vision of that album.
Yeah, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. Well, check out that Dead Guy record. It's really great.
I definitely will. If you could create any kind of crossover band or album, weird question, what would it be?
Like and make it up and what would it sound like?
Completely anything, yeah.
I gravitate towards like dub oftentimes. We'll try to incorporate dub into things that I do, regardless of the style of music that it is. Even if like the people I'm playing with aren't necessarily aware that it's happening, I still find a way. And maybe that's because I like Bad Brains so much, but it got me into things like King Tubby and also like different like Sister Nancy. I'm not naming anything too profound here, but there's something about that vibe that I like that I try to kind of put into some of the drum parts that I write. So I would say um, some form of aggressive music with an element of dub and maybe an element of trip hop.
Without making it the Judgment Night soundtrack, did you get a
Yeah.
chance to see Dub Trio?
Yes, and that guy is an incredible fucking drummer. Holy shit. I saw them once, and I before that was another band that I only heard. So I heard them for the first time, and it was a live record. You know, and I don't know. Um, that doesn't really happen often nowadays. Live records aren't really a thing, but yeah, I heard a live record and I was like mind blown, and then I had to listen to the real versions, and then I saw them live, and it's some of the most exciting music I've ever heard to this day, and it's so much better that there is no vocals in a way.
Drumming with one hand and holding the mic and like opening his thumb so that more signal gets to the mic to do like a filter sweep. It's so insane.
That's crazy.
Playing,
That guy actually played on a Julie Christmas record, Joe Tamino with Joel Hamilton. Um, and we play some of those songs. It was a project called Battle of Mice, and it's Julie
yeah.
Christmas on vocals. Joel Hamilton recorded it, and
He played
um,
drums.
he
I
played
think on some
drums.
on the first one or something.
Him and then Joe Tamino did some stuff, and there was a guy, Tony, who he was in Peru, Ubu, super random. But yeah, his drum parts are fucking like stupid, like in the best way. I mean that in a complimentary way.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
What are you reading or what book is important to you?
Okay. Well, right now I am reading a book by Roger Moret of Agnostic Front. He's got two books out. I just read a book called My Riot, and I really liked that book because in the my family like started out in New York City when they moved to America. They migrated here and they lived in the Lower East Side in the 70s when it was sort of dingy and crazy, and I wasn't born yet. And I've read a lot of stories about what that time period was like, and I think that Roger and Vinny from Agnostic Front do a really good job of going out of their way to sort of articulate how hard it was as guys into punk and guys that liked music. And so reading that is kind of reading their stories in their books is very fascinating to me because of what it looks like today. So it kind of paints a perspective of like, for better or worse, like how far things have coming along since then. I mean, gentrification isn't always a good thing, so there's things about it that are terrible, but I like that perspective because when I walk around New York in that area, there's something humbling about it, and just I kind of remember a little bit of that dinginess and makes you appreciate, what's around you and just sort of see things differently. So like I'm reading that book, My Riot, and I'm also really into the new Vinny Stigma book because of the same reasons. And then I think I was saying when I was texting with you, I'm kind of like narrow-minded sometimes with my stuff. Like it's a lot of music related stuff. It's not that I don't open up my horizons, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, I obviously read Get in the Van by Henry Rollins, and that book was very important to me because it articulated it felt like you were reading the Bible for what road life is like. And that I say the Bible because like that was like very formative years of the scene and DIY touring. And I think that like it's almost very clear that they helped literally write the roadmap to how to live that lifestyle. Because like millions of people have done it since then, but without those initial people that sort of like started it, like Black Flag and Minor Threat, and all the people that would like sort of write letters to each other because there would be like somebody in California or DC or in the Midwest. I feel like that scene that we came up in wouldn't exist. So I liked reading that book, and that meant a lot to me, and I love like reminiscing on those stories and stuff like that.
Rollins rules 100%.
Yeah, totally.
What character, real or fiction, do you wish you could meet?
That's a crazy one. You know what? I really like the Joker. In like the more modern sort of depiction of it. I grew up reading comics and collecting them, so I was always a fan of all the classic comic book guys. But like, I really enjoyed the depiction that what is his name? Joaquin Phoenix, I thought like did a really good job of reimagining the Joker just when we didn't think it was possible after the Dark Knight and all that stuff. And I felt like I could relate to the way that he depicted that character because he was a sort of a reject, and I knew what it felt like to be treated as such growing up in the 80s and 90s. So like I just sort of related to him in a weird way because I mean, like, I certainly wanted to. I fought back a lot. I grew up fighting, and I certainly wanted to, like, you know, brutalize these awful rich dudes that used to fuck with me every day when I was just trying to get a cup of coffee, before class or something. And so those scenes where he's in the train and there are these bros that are just messing with him, and set in New York. It's really relatable and like I while I don't advocate certain levels of violence, I definitely was able to relate to it. And I don't know, I like dark shit because I feel like I've had dark shit happen to me.
Any favorite podcasts?
Yeah, my friend does a podcast called The New Scene, and it's a weekly podcast. His name is Keith, and every week he's got like a different musician from a different type of band. He's had everyone from goth artists to industrial to punk and metal and all the above, legends, up and comers. He does a really good job, and he just also has a really calming voice. His voice is so meant for podcasting. I'm pretty picky about that stuff. People that interview people and interrupt the guest and that kind of thing. Like, it's hard to listen to. He's just like made for it. So as far as like music podcasts, that's a really good one. I wish I could get more diverse here, but I'm just drawing a blank because my mind just goes straight to the music stuff.
You're just immersed in it. And did you just start a podcast?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm helping produce it and I help book the guests, but I'm not actually on it. So I have a podcast host in Australia. Her name is Christina Rowett, and it's called We Wreck Records, and it's about a monumental record that changed the career for the artist that she's speaking with. So like Buzz Osborne was on last week's episode. It's once a week, and it's him talking about Stoner Witch because it had an anniversary. And they just kind of spend an hour and a half talking about that. And we also had Walter Schreifels talk about Slip by Quicksand. So like every week there's this week is going to be Gore, and it's the 40th anniversary, and it's going to be one of the members in costume because it's a web series too. So it's awesome, and it's something we're going to do every week from now on. So
Oh, wicked.
yeah,
Buzz is another one of those geniuses. Have you seen that Melvins documentary yet?
I did. I loved it.
It is so
Yeah.
good. Just their whole talk about like the way the music industry is so lame and how we're really supporting by creating like high quality merch and just selling direct to actual fans.
Man, everybody in music is doing that now. It's like trending, but he was doing that from the beginning. And he's a genius because I think, kind of like has a fundamental way of looking at things without overcomplicating stuff. I think oftentimes, especially in music, but a lot of different industries, like there's so much inflated ideas of what could happen versus like keeping it back to basics. Back to basics is like always going to win because, like you said, like he's making exclusive merch. His wife is helping him out with it, so it's all in-house. And they even do like the exclusive records. I mean, you could go buy them from a store and look, support a store, and that's cool. But like he's doing it right to the customers. You can go right up to his buddy at the merch table at the end of a show and buy the stuff from them. So it's cool that they figured out the model and they stuck with it for like 40 plus years.
Yeah, they are prolific.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're really fun to follow on Instagram. Is there anywhere else that people should find your stuff?
Thank you, by the way. I try to make it entertaining in one way or another without being too, shameless about it. Instagram's been a really great way for me to keep busy because I've gotten like a lot of drum gigs through there. So I've found that that's the best place for me. I tried doing the TikTok thing and I'm on there, but it hasn't really done much for me. And
You need to
I,
dance.
Yeah, yo, yeah, totally. Yeah. And then there's like my YouTube channel, but I haven't updated it enough. So Instagram is the best place to follow me and see what I'm doing. And it's just at Chris Enriquez Drums. Like, you and I are friends, but we still haven't met, right? We've talked about that. And that would be the case with a lot of people in the collective that we were part of during the pandemic. What that caused was things like this to happen. So like there is a purpose to all of it aside from the obvious, it's cool.
There absolutely is. I appreciate you so much, and we are going to hug and hang out.
Yeah, we are, dude. We have to. It doesn't make any sense. The world is not going to stop us from this. We're gonna fight the odds.
It's just going to happen. Well, thank you so much. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.